Your eyes do not deceive you. You are seeing a strong blue LED light inside this bus stop bathroom. But one purpose is what the designers say you can't see right on your own body. Those 23 of 417 national parks decided to stop selling these disposable plastic water bottles. It's that technology that firefighters are hoping to use. It would really help them get a better perspective, a higher perspective, when fighting structure fires, especially on tall buildings like this. We are live on Sky 13, coming up next. Sitting quietly in her car, that wild coyote came up and snapped, the bite catching her on the leg and catching Martinez completely by surprise. You could see the sheer force of this trap, and it's not light either. Tucson Wildlife Center believes that Harris hawk was carrying it around for at least a week. We got crafty, hitting the road to get answers. Talk to me about Cortero construction. And with my sign in hand, got a few bites. I learned these drivers were not too happy pre-construction either. They said they were the most shocked to watch that footage and see the thief see these security camera postings on their property, disregard them completely, walk right to the front door, and now she's a wanted woman. The Roach Fire flames strong enough to destroy homes, but even things the flames did not touch, take a look at this. The heat alone hot enough to melt everything in its path. But here at Cortero Farms Road and Old Father, you're already starting to see the lines being drawn in the dirt shoulder, the lines being drawn on the pavement, signifying the potential headache ahead with a light at the end of the shovel. Dan, the spokesman, told me it should really come as no surprise that these washes are what they call basically super highways for wildlife to walk right up into populated areas. Now, this backs right up into the business park where Isabel Martinez was bitten last week. And when there is food lying around, whether it's in garbage cans or hand-fed by humans, it's ripe for the picking. This is it, the epicenter. Work being done behind this door here at the Bio 5 Science Center on the U of A campus and down this small lab bay to create a vaccine for a large problem. You bring up a great point. Take a walk with me. We are here at her neighbor's home. This is Dan Haas's house, and he says that whoever took those ashes, all they have to do is bring them and put them right here on his doorstep, no questions asked.
Come on, Maxie, come on, let's go.
A mother, a wife, 365 days a year, Susie Burrows is the caring shoulder to lean on for her family.
That would have been like the wrong move.
But at a moment's notice, she becomes that superhero with strong enough shoulders for countless helpless victims.
8 years, going on my 9th year.
Her headquarters is the county attorney's office, the 14th floor, where Burrows and more than 100 others put on their figurative capes.
They're ordinary people who live ordinary lives. They come from all walks of life, but these are people who have a really deep passion and a commitment for making a difference in their community.
They are the victim service volunteers, unpaid, and oftentimes, at a heinous crime scene, they go unnoticed amongst the officers and detectives, unassuming men and women walking right up to victims and their families.
The main brochure we have is a domestic violence brochure. It has a lot of resources.
At their most vulnerable.
Just a connection. Once you start talking to people, they'll become more receptive. And your tone of voice has a lot to do with it. The way you approach them.
For 8 years, Burrows has taken on the unenviable task, using her training on trauma and listening techniques.
It was a big life event.
To help people like Jamie Leon Guerrero.
3 years ago, my partner, Chris Chambers, was killed by an impaired driver who was on spice while riding her bicycle at 6 o'clock in the morning on June 18th, 2014.
I knew what had happened. I knew there was a death involved. By how distraught she was.
It's these crimes that Burrows remembers the most, the ones where she is there to help the one victim, like Jamie, who can't help themselves.
I describe it when I speak, like a baby kind of taking their first step, like I had fallen and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I don't think without their support, even in that small time frame, just kind of nudging me to get up and you kind of got to go forward now. Without Chris, I don't know if I would have been able to do that.
Victim services became her second family. They were there at the trial and through to the killer's sentencing.
Because that's another trauma. You know, you're the victim of a crime and suddenly now you have to be re-victimized.
You don't know how awesome it is to have
Reunited the day we interviewed the pair, reminiscing about the feelings they had together.
These were these two strangers who were in Chris's house with me, and they held my hand and they gave me a hug, and just that feeling of genuine concern. I remember that so clearly.
All those emotions from which Burroughs has to disconnect.
I've seen a lot. Yeah, I don't know if I want to. Yeah.
Trying not to take each murder, sexual assault, or robbery home when she takes off that super volunteer cape and is back to mom.
You want to take care of them. You can't. You want to take them home with you. You can't. But there's so many people out there that are alone and that need help. And if this is one of the services that they can provide, have given to them for free, then I think this is one of the best programs out there.
In downtown, Evan Schreiber, KOLD News 13, live local late breaking. She had had enough. Leslie Janice Mole spent the late afternoon clearing out what's left, moving from a home filled with 11 years worth of goods and memories.
This was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. I just was done. Nope, no more.
Less than a week removed
They tried.
from a break-in. She returned from a couple days out of town on Wednesday, January 24th to see this. The back window smashed, glass everywhere, her front door wide open, and her television gone. 2 days later, as she was preparing to move, her heart broke.
We were packing up my house, and that's when I realized that we couldn't find my father's ashes.
The velvet bag once sitting where his picture sits here in her den. Edward Janis, the physical remains of the man who died 1 year ago this month following a stroke. Stolen. To her, of all her stuff, it's the only thing that had meaning.
Do I want my other things back? Sure, but like, do I want my father back? I want my father back more than I want any of the rest of it. Like, you want my purses, keep my purses. You want my TV, keep it. But bring me back my father.
It's a law just like any other. You must pay to park. But the cost has climbed to a shocking sum for Tucson's top 13 unlawful offenders. Get this, they owe the city nearly $205,000.
Egregiously outrageous. It's crazy.
Are you surprised by that number?
From 13 individuals, yes. Personally, I'm surprised at anybody that would have 3 or more unpaid parking tickets.
Because just one is enough to reach Christopher Hale's desk. The Tucson City Court Administrator says if you don't pay Park Tucson in the first 30 days, the case is transferred to his system. You go into default, and that means added fees for delinquency.
And it's pretty easy to do the math if you look up one of the fines and then start adding things to it. It accumulates very rapidly.
And that's how you get to our top parking perpetrators. We got our hands on the list and their information, with the challenge being how to find them. Looking for John Carlson, who had 125 parking tickets for nearly $16,000. Or Raymond Allen, the top offender in the city, 388 tickets since 2011 with a price tag of more than $52,000.
It's a small segment of folks who, at least in my opinion, have no regard for the law.
But our knocking and tracking down their given addresses was to no avail. And for the businesses like Tucson's Hertz Car Rentals, whose customers racked up parking fines from 2003 to 2008, our questions led them to say they're, quote, currently investigating these particular outstanding violations. For the city, collecting from these people may be a lost cause.
1 day's worth of return mail.
When they, too, can't track them down because of bad addresses. So how many is too many? Even people on the street were bashful about just one.
I can't imagine having that many parking tickets and not doing anything about it.
At what point for you is too many parking tickets?
One, I don't want a parking ticket.
They want these lawbreakers to be found.
You're losing revenue for the city, and that's what you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, those people have to be hounded.
But Hale says they don't have the tools needed. And in these parking cases, he says going after them won't yield the results the people demand.
They just simply don't care, and they don't take care of their obligation. That's not just an obligation to the court, but it's to the city of Tucson and the citizens of the city of Tucson.
Saying they should do the right thing and pay up. In downtown Tucson, Evan Schreiber, KOLD News 13, live local late breaking.